Hi there, I am Melissa Morris. I am the founder and lead consultant of Agency Authority. I am coming on today to talk about why your team isn't taking ownership and how to fix it. So, a lot of times when I am working with agency owners, they are telling me they have these team struggles, right? And they're saying, my team isn't taking ownership. My team isn't taking ownership. And what that looks like and what that means like in actuality, like just quite practically what that looks like and what that means is their team is still coming to them with lots of questions. Their team is still pinging them in Slack. They're still spending tons of time in team meetings answering questions that the agency owner or business owner feels like my team should know the answer to this. Why am I still answering this question? Why is this still getting stuck at me? Why am I still finding myself answering these questions over and over and over again? And what they have found themselves in is what they have actually been doing is delegating tasks, not responsibilities. And this is why they still find themselves stuck as the bottleneck and fielding questions all the time because they're delegating tasks, not responsibilities. So I want to give you an example of what that looks like. Like, what do I mean by that? So let's keep just like a really super simple example and say, right, I have an assistant and I want my assistant to make sure that invoices are getting paid. So what task delegation starts to look like is maybe it's in ClickUp, maybe it's in Asana, and it says like, make sure so-and-so paid their invoice. Make sure so-and-so paid their invoice. And then I have a meeting with them. I'm like, hey, is so-and-so paid their invoice? Are we all good there? And they say yes, or they say no. And you're like, what did you do about it if you said no? Or they said yes, like, okay, then why do I have to tell you next month to go and check again? Right. So they find themselves stuck where either month after month they're going to their assistant and saying, hey, did so and so pay their invoice? Yes or no. And then when they hear, like, oh, no, they didn't pay it, now they're frustrated with their assistant and saying, well, did you follow up with them? And they're like, oh, no, you didn't ask me to. Right. And you can insert any role, any team member. This is that common pattern, though, where it's like you've asked them to do something and then they do it, but they don't get it across the finish line. They don't know when to circle back with you. Next month, you're asking them to do the same task again. And unless you are constantly stepping in and moving that bus forward and saying, well, did you follow up? Did you do this? Did you check in with them? They're just sitting and waiting for direction. And then now the business owner is really frustrated and they're like, why won't they take accountability? Why won't they take ownership? And the truth is you just haven't equipped them to take ownership. You've equipped them to go and finish a very specific task, but you have not equipped them to really take ownership and take responsibility for the task. So let me show you what it looks like when you're giving ownership and giving responsibility, that you're delegating a responsibility, you're not just delegating a task. So delegating a task is like, hey, make sure so-and-so pays their invoice this month. Delegating the responsibility is, team member, you are going to be the person who makes sure that all of our invoices get paid every month. And this is what I want you to do. On the 25th of every month, I want you to make sure all invoices have gone out because they are supposed to be paid by the 1st. Anybody who has not paid by the 3rd, I want you to send this email, and this is what I want it to say. And then I want you to give it 24 more hours. And if you have not heard from them in 24 hours, then I want you to let me know, and I will advise you on next best steps. Now that team member has a few really important bits of information when they understand that they're the person everybody's going to look to find out if invoices got paid. It is very clear that it is their job to know that. It is clear that it is their job to do this month over month over month, not in some one-off sort of way. So it is clear. They know how to get an outcome, like they know what the end result is, and they know how to act and behave if the end result isn't happening, right? End result is we want the invoice to get paid. But now we've told them, here's what you're going to do if that end result isn't happening. You're going to wait 24 hours, 48 hours. You're going to send a follow-up email. You're going to wait another 24 hours, and then you're going to let me know. So it's very clear the goal and then what I'm supposed to do if we're not on track for that goal. So again, this is a very like tiny and specific example, but start to replicate this out on what this could mean for your other team members and on bigger scales. So this could look similar, like with a client conversation, is I want you to make sure they get this deliverable and they send off the deliverable. And then you as the agency owner are saying, well, did you hear back from them? Did you follow up with them? And they're like, no, I didn't hear back. No, I didn't follow up. But they have not been given clear instruction. As far as they're concerned, the goal was send the deliverable to the client, check, I'm done. They have been delegated a task. Make sure we get client feedback and it gets back to the creative team or the copywriter so that we can keep this thing moving. That was never made clear, right? That's a responsibility that should have been delegated. So getting really clear on, are you delegating just a task or the responsibility, right? Like, does this person know what the outcome is supposed to be? Do they know it's their job to get this task all the way to that outcome? And then number 3, if they're not achieving that outcome, like if they're not making progress toward that, do they know what to do, when to escalate, and how to handle that situation? So some things you can do as the business owner to make sure that you're actually starting to delegate responsibilities and not just tasks, and getting that ownership that we all so desperately want in our businesses, is first is to create the container, right? And that's what I'm talking about here. Is the goal clear? Do they know what they're aiming for? And do they know how to behave and what steps to take and when to escalate if that goal is not being accomplished, right? That is the container they're working in, and they know their left and right parameters and what they're ultimately driving to. So that is step number 1, is make sure all of that is clear. Now, step number 2 is how we're really up-leveling our accountability, is this kind of solutions and feedback cycle here. So what we need to do is, when they do reach a stumbling block or they're reaching a point, you have to make sure 2 things don't happen. 1, you can't just tell them what to do. Ask them to come to you with solutions, ask them to come to you with ideas, and work together to start to create that solution. That really starts to give them confidence and make them feel empowered that they are able to get items to the goalpost, right? They can start to help form the container that they can work in as well. So they start to learn or expand their left and right margins when they're coming and working actively with you to create new solutions. And then the feedback aspect of it. If they are doing something in a way that is not up to your standard, not clear on intention, which will inevitably happen, don't just step in and fix it for them. Don't always jump in. What you want to do is, you're wanting to start creating like some feedback for them, right? So this can look like guidance. Hey, I see that you've done this. This is really how we're going to do it moving forward. Can you please make sure you're making a note of that? And this is how we're going to have that done moving forward. And this can start to feel like a combination too of working on solutions together and feedback. So maybe start with some questions. I noticed that you handled this in this way. Can you tell me about why you chose, right, this as the solution? Like, why did you handle this situation in this way? How maybe could we have handled this situation differently? Do you think if we tried something else, it would result in a better outcome or actually have gotten us to our goal when this other way maybe didn't? So really encourage them to work together and work with you on creating solutions, and work to make sure that you're giving them feedback and not just jumping in and fixing. Something else I want to point out here too is it can be easy and top of mind to give improvement-driven feedback, right? I wouldn't have done it this way. You should do it this way. Don't say this, do say that. I would also really encourage you to give feedback that highlights when they have done something really, really well. If you've looked at something and you're thinking, man, they crushed this, they really knocked it out of the park, let them know, because that's also continuing to build standards and help them better understand. Again, like the container they work in, like they're going to start to understand, this is what the business owner likes. This is how I know I'm doing a good job. And it's like, it's a good confidence boost. They know they're doing a good job. Nobody wants to just get told how they can improve all the time. Like, tell them when they're doing things really well and make sure you're pointing that out too. So again, like to recap here, we've got this container. We're giving them left and right margins. They know this is the goal, the objective I'm trying to accomplish. Here's what I do when I encounter problems. These are my escalation moments, that when I need to step outside and get more support, and then work with them in this solution kind of feedback cycle. and make sure that they're just continuing to grow in that position and feel like they can start making educated choices and decisions to expand their container or even take on more responsibilities. And then I would say the last thing about this, the thing you can do as a leader, and I don't know, it might sound a little silly on first start, but is to create safety around all of that. If you are quick to, if you know yourself and you're like, I'm quick to kind of be negative, or I'm quick to want to jump in and fix, and you're not letting your team member be heard, you're not letting them share, you're not encouraging them to experiment. If that always feels like a danger zone from them, they're not going to do it. And they're more and more going to want to sit back and wait for very direct and specific instructions than if they feel like it is safe to come to you with new ideas, to brainstorm, or to try new things. And as long as they're always working within the container, those left and right margins you have sent for them, then it should feel safe for them to move around and kind of bump up on the edge of that container a little bit and see what happens. And then do that without concern that that there's going to be like negative repercussions around that. So I hope this was helpful. If you are thinking to yourself, yep, some team things are definitely going on for me, this idea of like delegating tasks versus responsibilities. If you leave a comment below that says team, I will send you my cheat sheet that says the 4 biggest mistakes you're making with your team and how to fix them. And this will help shine a little bit of a light on other ways this may be showing up in your business and why you're struggling to get your team to really step up and manage things in the way you want them managed. Thank you for joining me. And I apologize for the beginning if anybody joined and I went off and then I went back. We are experimenting with a new streaming service. And I wasn't sure if we were live, but hopefully we're live and hopefully we were good now. And we'll see you next time.